Well, with Governor Shapiro pushing for marijuana legalization, Action News Investigates decided to take a closer look at what's currently legal in Pennsylvania, medical marijuana. We found some doctors handing out more than 10,000 marijuana cards a year. That's about 30 a day, 7 days a week. And some marijuana doctors have been disciplined by the state for overprescribing or misusing drugs, including one who works out of this building in Monroeville. There's little evidence that this small Monroeville office belongs to one of the most prolific writers of medical marijuana cards in Pennsylvania. Records obtained by Action News Investigates show Dr. Roxanne Rick approved more than 27,000 marijuana cards in less than 5 years. We spoke with a psychiatrist who studies medical marijuana. What is the problem with that?
Oh my gosh, nobody recommends any medication with that kind of numbers.
Reached by phone, Dr. Rick said she did not want to do an interview. Before ending the call, she told Action News Investigates the number of cards issued is not relevant to medical marijuana and that she's not really treating patients.
That is so wrong. How can you make a recommendation and you're not treating the patient?
State law requires doctors to certify a patient has one of 23 conditions to qualify for a medical marijuana card. Doctors need state health department approval to be in the program. Doctors typically charge $150 to $200 to evaluate a patient. The law has no limits on the number of cards doctors can issue. Action News Investigates found a Philadelphia doctor issued more than 43,000 cards. Two other doctors in eastern Pennsylvania wrote more than 30,000 each. We asked the state health secretary who oversees the medical marijuana program if she has any concerns about those numbers.
Different physicians will have different numbers of patients depending on their practices.
As a pediatrician, would you want to see 10,000 patients a year?
Well, I can't comment on that number right now, sorry.
State records show Dr. Rick began certifying medical marijuana patients in 2019, the same year her medical license was fully restored after a 16-year suspension and probation period. In 2003, the state medical board suspended Rick's license after she pleaded guilty to federal charges of drug distribution and possession with intent to distribute. She was sentenced to nearly 5 years in prison. According to court records, a Pittsburgh police officer was her muscle or enforcer for selling drugs. He was also convicted. What concerns does that raise?
That's very concerning.
Rick tells Action News Investigates her ability to issue marijuana certificates is not pertinent to any past disciplinary history. She says, "We don't touch products. We don't recommend products." Rick is not the only marijuana doctor with a disciplinary record. Dr. Vera Sherman issues marijuana cards from this office in Homestead. She also sells CBD products. Records show she did about 2,500 certificates in 6 years. In 2019, the state medical board found Sherman gave opioids to multiple patients without obtaining a drug screen or documenting their response to other medications. One patient died. Sherman contested the findings, but the board fined her $4,000. The mother of the patient who died, Nicholas Classic, sued Sherman and other physicians for malpractice. Sherman and the other doctors denied the allegations. The case was settled. Reached by phone, Sherman tells Action News Investigates back then everyone was overprescribing because there was no guidance from CDC. She says her patients came in at high doses. I decreased the doses. In 2001, the medical board suspended the license of Dr. Marcellus Boggs for prescribing methadone to a heroin addict without keeping any records. His license was reinstated in 2004. He has approved more than 18,000 marijuana cards. When Action News Investigates asked Boggs about his disciplinary record, he said, "It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's part of the practice of medicine." Dr. Bogan says the state reviews physician backgrounds before approving them for the medical marijuana program. So you have no concerns about doctors with a history of drug-related discipline in the program?
I can't talk about individual physicians, and I don't have specific examples, but all I can tell you is the process that we go through to certify physicians is a rigorous process that includes review of their experience.
Action News Investigates asked an anti-medical marijuana activist about our findings.
I think it just gets at what we all know, which is that this is a farce of a program, and there's a lot of sketchy people that participate in it.
We also took our findings to attorney Patrick Nightingale, who advocates for marijuana legalization. Does that raise any concerns for you?
Well, one of the fortunate things about cannabis is how safe and how well tolerated it is.
But Dr. Stout says much is still unknown about marijuana's effects when combined with other drugs.
There may be people that are dying or have died of a drug-drug combination, and they're mistakenly thought that they have an accidental overdose.
The state has approved about 1,900 medical marijuana doctors in Pennsylvania, but records show only a small fraction of that number write the majority of the marijuana cards. Live in Monroeville, Paul Van Osdol, Pittsburgh's Action News 4.